Hey, what's going on, Archons? Welcome to another Key Thoughts episode where I just share my musings on the great game of KeyForge. And this week, I am bringing you an idea that I've had for some time now. It comes from my testing of Winds of Exchange and playing some decks and seeing some things happen that have led me to just wonder, is this a good thing? Is this a good thing? Is this a good idea? And that thing is token generation. Is token generation always a good idea? So the question I pose to you today, my fellow Archons, is to token or not to token? That is the question. But first, let's go into a card of the week, something I haven't done for a little bit. So here we have Whirlpool. For those of you not familiar, this was introduced in the Dark Tidings side of things. Let me get a little bit closer here. There we go. Dark Tidings side of things. And Whirlpool reads, well, it's an artifact. It gives you an Ember Pip when you play it. And it says, at the end of each player's turn, that player gives control of the creature on their right flank to their opponent and moves it to that player's left flank. Well, that's something, isn't it? For those of you not familiar with this card, it can be a bit of a thinker, and I don't think it is playable in every deck. I think there's instances where it is phenomenal, and instances where it's maybe not be the greatest. Now, I'm enjoying it in Winds of Exchange, and I have two decks with the Whirlpool because of the fact that you can capture Ember onto your creatures. More so, you can put it on maybe even a token creature. So you make a token right before you're about to capture, put it on your flank that will move over. Right flank, is that right? Yes, right flank. So put the right flank on the right flank there, capture the Ember on that creature, then send it over to your opponent, and then next turn you have the ability to not only have taken your opponent off some Ember, but also get it for yourself. I'm finding that merry-go-round that Whirlpool provides really fun in this set, with all the Ember being put on creatures through capture and other means. So it's pretty special, and I find that it can really be disruptive to your opponent's plan with maybe how they want to do the board, especially if they're used to playing it and getting a certain board out there. They have to start thinking about what they want to sacrifice each turn to you. If you have overlapping houses, that creates a whole nother scenario where you can use the creatures they're giving to you. I'm really enjoying Whirlpool much more than I did in Dark Tidings, and I much like it in Winds of Exchange. Now let's get on to the main topic of this episode, which is, should you be making a token or should you not be making a token? And I really think this is a question that we need to ask ourselves, rather than just blindly going into the process of, this card says make a token and let's do it. There's some considerations I think that needs to be made, because I think there are some decks where this is really applicable. Now, first off, the thing you need to ask yourself is, how quality is your token? What is the level of your token that it's providing to you in terms of your overall game plan? Because there are some instances that will exist that may make it so that creating a token is really not advantageous to your gameplay. Could be maybe your main house is not the same house as your token. So when you're making that, you're not looking to call that house, and it's just something on the board. Now, if you have a Researcher from Mars, which has the Omni ability to archive a Mars card when you reveal it, archive it, Omni ability. So it means you can use it on any turn. Doesn't mean Mars has to be your main house. You can still get some good action from that in its own. That's one consideration. Does it have an Omni ability? Another thing is, what is the nature of the token? What is it going to do for you? Is it providing anything to add to the game state in which your deck is looking to do in the win condition you're looking to do, which is obviously forge 3 keys or take your opponent off check, etc., etc. You know, the game of KeyForge. So if it is not doing that, I think you need to start asking, do I want to create a token? Well, why would you ask yourself that question? You may be wondering, why do I pose this to you right now? Well, fellow Archons, as I've been doing this, I've been noticing that certain decks, I will generate a token, but I will generate a token at the expense of a card that is quite important to what I want my deck to do. Now I've lost this card. And as a result of losing this card, the ability to get it back is much less enabled, basically, unless you have a very limited number of cards that are in the set that can help you utilize those cards. But I mean, there is scenarios where you're going to have cards that allow you to pull your tokens back to your hand in some form and get more use out of them, but not always. And when that's the case, you need to really look at whether you want to do that, because you're gambling at potentially losing a main staple of a card. I have one deck that I particularly know I need this card in it. It's a Brick Nasty. So if I'm holding Brick Nasty in hand, the tokens are also in Brobnar, so that is helpful for this scenario. I know that I can freely generate tokens without the fear of losing the one card that's really going to help me go with the deck's game plan. So that's one thing. When you get what you need, it's in hand. You don't have to worry about. You can freely generate tokens. I like Star Alliance because of the way it allows you to kind of look at your pool of cards coming and allow you to kind of plan your token generation more. So things like Navigator LE, Future Booster. I think it's Teamwork. I want to say no, not Teamwork. The one where they're carrying boxes, but it's you basically get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, or put them in any order, and make a token. I can't remember the name of it, but it's Gruntwork. That's it, Gruntwork. That one is a great one as well. I think those cards in Star Alliance are really helpful for being able to do that. Never mind that you also have Ganymede Outpost, the artifact, which is my favorite one actually, because you basically archive a creature from play. No, put a creature to the bottom and then archive 2 cards from your hand. So that is great because you can then get your card back and put it where you want it to be. So that way you're kind of know you're going to see the card before the end of your deck. That's one good thing. Now, here's the other thing that you have to consider when going through this, because it's all fun and games for me to say don't make tokens necessarily for your deck. But there are things that exist that you have to consider that may make that not even a possibility. How many cards are in your deck that make tokens, and that make tokens, we'll call it without your consent, as in you don't have a choice. A token's being made. It's not you may, it says play, make a token. And do those cards also have an Ember Pip on it, in which case you're losing an Ember at the same time as a token. So all these things must be considered. If you have so many cards that make tokens, then you're not playing half your deck potentially, or half is probably extreme, but maybe like up to 9 cards, 10 even. So a third of your deck potentially you're not playing because of this. So you have to really weigh those factors, like how much will you not be playing as a result, because then that's going to be problematic. So this is why I pose the question: should you always make a token? Are there decks out there where maybe making a token is not the right answer, and just playing regular KeyForge without tokens is actually the way you want to play the deck? Test it out, see how you feel, see if there's a deck you have that, try that out. Maybe try not making tokens and see how it feels. I know that there is a deck I have where I really don't care about the token at all. It's actually useless, and so I want to start going down that path of experimenting. But how many cards make tokens is also going to be a factor in whether this is a feasible plan or not. Because if you have enough cards that make tokens, then you kind of are at a point where it's just not worth it to not be playing those cards or discarding them. It's a waste. They're just essentially dead cards, and that is also not good. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this idea of maybe you shouldn't always be making tokens? Maybe your deck functions really well without tokens. You never know. Give it a shot. Let me know. Please comment on this. I'm going to call it a controversial idea. And as always, folks, may your Ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.